Hello and welcome to this presentation of the engineer panel inside HyperSpace Pirates of Atira. Currently I'm in the pilot seat and here is the cockpit. So when I designed the game, I had the idea of three major roles within the ship. So that would be the pilot, the co-pilot, and the engineer. Now the engineer would have the role of making sure that all the internals of the ship would be working well, having an overview of what's going on. And so I designed it in such a way that it's basically a panel you walk up and interact with, and you see the entire ship from a top-down perspective. Now I had the idea that you would sort of see everything from the top down. You would be able to install and uninstall components, that there would be sort of a cargo bay within the ship. That's basically a list of all the components and resources that you have within the ship. And you can install and uninstall them as you please. And there were a whole host of things I wanted the players to do that is currently working within this framework. But there are also a bunch of changes that I would like to make. So in this video, I'm going to show you how things currently work and then how I would like to change things in the future. Because I think the capabilities that the engineer has probably won't change, but I would like to make it a bit more dynamic than it is right now. So anyway, the engineer, first off, sees everything top down. We have all the current installed components in a list right here. We can turn things on and off basically by just clicking all these different cubes right here, and we can clearly see the capacitor. So this is basically the batteries of the ship. Currently the power balance is still positive, meaning we are generating more power than we are losing. But if I keep turning things on, so now I'm basically booting up every single component in the ship, we'll probably see this power flow go negative. So the ship can have a number of generators depending on how it looks like. Currently this ship has one generator that is generating all the power. If I would turn the generator off, which I'm currently doing, we can see that the power flow right now is very, very negative, and we're slowly but surely depleting the capacitors. Should they reach zero, the whole ship will basically turn off and die. And if that would happen during a firefight, it would take quite some time to boot the whole thing up again, and it would be quite devastating. You can also overpower components, so that would basically be this slider. You can like move it to the max. That would basically have the engines giving you 200% thrust, but we also have a little bit of a chance having those components turning on fire, so it's a bit of a risk and reward thing going on there. So that's something you could do with pretty much any component. The engineer can sort of overpower things and with the risk of damaging, of course. Then we have the status panel. This will probably change quite a lot, but right now what we sort of have a overview is a quick overview of what components are damaged and what health they have, but right now everything is fine. Then we have other types of components which are integrated into the ship. That would be radiators, sensitive piping, and stuff like that. So the piping can also get damaged from collisions or being shot at, and then you would lose a lot of fuel, for example. We also have the radiators. If they get damaged, they will spontaneously catch things on fire. So you'd have to, take out the fire and then get close to the damaged radiator and repair it. And then we also have the cargo list. So in here we can see that we have a bunch of drones, some minerals in the cargo bay. We also see the missile launcher, all that type of stuff in here. From here we can also see that there is a drone bay that is not installed, but it's in cargo. And if I right click on these little icons, we can see that here is a drone bay socket where I can install that drone bay that is in cargo. So I just click and boom, now we have a new little interface that's shown up in the ship. We can also turn this on, and then we can clearly see the power draining more. So we could rearrange things. For example, I don't want this missile launcher here, and I don't want this cannon here, and I could install the cannon here instead, stuff like that. I can also change floors. So now we're looking at the top of the ship, and here we can see the turrets. I can uninstall the turrets and move them around as well if I would like to. So when a component gets uninstalled, I also have the opportunity of eject. So that would basically be like, okay, I dumped this light turret out of my cargo hold, freeing up some cargo space. But now, of course, I can't install that turret anymore. So those are the three big things that the engineer interface currently can do. The last thing is that there is an emergency toggle. That would be when fires sort of get out of control and you have to contain it somehow. You could toggle an emergency. That would make everything go red, and there are airlocks all over the place that basically gets shut. And that will contain the fire, but also makes it really difficult for the players to kind of move around the ship. So in a big combat, it would be a good idea to turn on the emergency mode even prior to a disaster, just to make sure that fires that would erupt are contained. But then you have to weigh in that, okay, moving through the ship takes much longer as each airlock has to turn on and off. So that's it basically for what the engineer is doing. What's definitely going to change, and the downside of this type of interface, is that the engineer is currently quite passive. You just sit in this panel, you turn things on and off. If you want to install or uninstall something, that is through an interface here. And that's something I want to change. I want the engineer to be the character who's running around the ship and, you know, tinkering with stuff and fixing things. So what I would like to do is still have engineer panels, more than one, around the ship that could give you the overview. But installing something would be that you would physically walk around with an object, like an item in my hands, like this little box that would represent the engines, for example. And I would run to the engine area and install it by, you know, interacting with sort of the empty socket there. So all the components of the ship can basically be picked up in sort of the first person view and installed in the first person view. But you would still need a top-down view to kind of know what's going on and more easily turn things on and off. But that would also affect how the cargo works right now. So currently there is a finite amount of cargo space, so you cannot just have too much stuff in your cargo bay. That would change if all the components were basically things you could manually take out yourself. They would be, you could have basically an infinite amount of these crates lying around in the ship. But I think that's okay. I don't think it's necessary to have sort of these restraints that I currently have. Another difference would be that minerals would still be in the cargo hold. So if you find minerals like this crate here, for players to be able to access that, I would still have to walk up to sort of crates, like cargo bay representative items in the world. So this would be like a crate, and I would interact with it. And now currently I just put minerals into the cargo bay, and then other players could walk up to that crate and kind of take out those minerals if they need to. So I think that concludes the engineer panel. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to know more, have a look at my my YouTube channel. You can visit HyperSpace Pirates of Atira's website at hyperspacethegame.com, and my Twitter is @Coulianos. Thank you so much for watching.